Hey everyone, tonight we're going to talk about how to solve and write equations in a real-world context, or so basically word problems where we're dealing with equations. So the first example says that the table below shows the cost of bananas based on their weight in pounds. So the left-hand column talks about the pounds of bananas, and the right-hand column is the cost of those bananas. So we're going to write an equation that can be used to calculate the cost of X pounds of bananas. So the first thing we want to make note of is that the cost is going to depend on the pounds of bananas. And so in a situation like this where we have two different variables, we have X and we have Y, then we have an independent variable and a dependent variable. So our dependent variable is the one that depends on the other variable. So in this case, the cost, or Y, is dependent. And X is independent. Okay, so to figure out how we can write this equation, it's helpful for us to first recognize that this is going to be a proportional relationship. So in other words, we need to have a common multiplier that we're using over and over. If you ever go to a grocery store or go grocery shopping with your parents, you'll notice that bananas and fruits generally are going to have their cost dependent on the number of pounds that you buy. So there will be a certain cost per pound of bananas. So we can figure out that cost per pound, okay? Note that this is a unit rate that we're dealing with here. So we can figure out the cost per pound by doing 2.76 divided by 4. And when we do that division, we know 4 doesn't go into 2, but it does go into 27 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24. And when I finish my division, I have 69 cents per pound. Okay, and that's for 4 pounds. But just to make sure that this is still a proportional relationship that we're dealing with, let's go ahead and check by doing the division with 6 pounds and with 8 pounds. So $4.14 divided by 6. 6 goes into 41 6 times. That's a difference of 5 when I bring down the 4. 6 goes into 54 9 times. So again, still 69 cents a pound. And last but not least, checking for 8 pounds. 8 goes into 55 6 times. It gives me 48 with a difference of 7. 8 goes into 72 9 times. So again, it is 69 cents per pound, which means that if we take this 69 cents times bananas, the number of pounds of bananas, then we will get the cost. So now, if we simply take those words that I wrote down and replace them with our variables, y for the cost is equal to 69 cents times x, which is our number of pounds. And I should really be using a dot for x. There we go. So 69 cents per pound. And there's my equation. All right, let's try another real-world scenario. This one, it says Amy drove at a rate of A miles per hour. Yuma drove at half the rate of speed that Amy drove. Yuma drove 29 miles per hour, and we want to write an equation to represent the situation. So I'm going to start this problem just like I will with any problem by writing down what I know, okay? And I know that Amy is A, okay? The first sentence says that we're representing her speed with A miles per hour. We also know that Yuma drove at half of that speed. So 1/2 of A would be 1/2 times A. And we want to figure out how to write an equation to show this, okay? Now, the last sentence says Yuma drove 29 miles per hour, okay? Yuma drove 29 miles per hour. That means that 29 is equal to 1/2 of A. And there is my equation. Now, I can use this to figure out what A is. In other words, I can use it to figure out how fast Amy drove. So if I said, for instance, notice that this is 1/2 times A, right? So I can undo this, this multiplication that's happened here by multiplying by the reciprocal, or in other words, by dividing by 1/2. So if I divide by 1/2, it's the same as multiplying by 2. So I'm going to do that to both sides of my equation here. And this 2 is going to cancel out with the 2 that's in the denominator. And what I'm left with on the right-hand side here is A. And I know that 2 times 29 is 58. So Amy drove 58 miles per hour. Okay, and another example says Barbara spent B dollars at the video store. I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second and make sure that I'm writing down my information as I go through the problem, because this is going to be important. Barbara spent B dollars at the video store. Next it says if Rachel spent 4 times the amount Barbara spent. So again, I'm going to stop and write down Rachel is 4 times Barbara. Okay, so Barbara spent B dollars, Rachel spent 4 times B, and we're being told that they spent all together, they spent $43, okay? So that means Barbara, her cost, plus Rachel's is 43. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug in these variables that I have here. B plus 4B is equal to 43. Now I can simplify this because I know that these are both like terms. They have the same variable to the same power. So 1B and 4B gives me a total of 5B's equals 43. And there is my equation. Now, in some problems, notice that this one does not. This one only asks us for an equation. It does not ask us to solve. So with this problem, generally, this would be our answer. However, you will find that there are some problems that are going to ask you to solve for B, to solve and figure out how much money Barbara spent or how much money Rachel spent. And so if that were the case, then we would simply divide, knowing that this is a multiplication problem. So the inverse operation of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides. My 5's cancel out, and I have $43 divided by 5. Now 5 goes into 43 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. That leaves me 3 left over. 6 times 5 is 30, which leaves me nothing left. And that's it. Okay. So in other words, what we're saying is that Barbara spent $8.60. And then if I wanted to figure out Rachel's, I could simply take $8.60 and multiply by 4. All right, and we're going to end on an easier note here. Our last example says Killern Lakes Middle School has 682 students. NIMS Middle School has 78 fewer students than Killern Lakes Middle School. Let X represent the number of students at NIMS Middle School. And they give you an equation here, X plus 78 is equal to 682. And they say how many students attend NIMS Middle School. So they have made our lives easier automatically by giving us the equation. They're not going to make us write the equation, they just gave it to us. So all we need to do is figure out what that value of X is, because they ask us for the number of students at NIMS, and they tell us that NIMS is represented with X. So I can solve for X again by using the inverse operation. So in this problem I have addition, so I'm going to subtract. I'm going to take out 78 from both sides here. Now I know that the difference between 78 and 82 is 4, so I can anticipate that my answer is probably going to be 604. But let's check our work here. I'm going to borrow 10. 12 minus 8 is going to give me 4. I'm going to change this to minus 7, and that gives me 0, and that's 600 in the beginning, leaves me with X is equal to 604. So in other words, we might say that there are 604 students at NIMS Middle School. Alright, and that's it for today. Now what I'd like you to do is turn over to the back side of your notes and see if you can try the section that says your turn. We will check our answers at the end of class. Good luck.